It was a Friday night when I got the most unexpected call of my life. On the other end of the line, an elegant female voice told me, "Good evening, this is Bella Vista Mansion. We'd like to place an urgent pizza delivery order." I'd been working for 4 years at Pizzeria do Barro, a small family business I knew like the back of my hand. Bella Vista Mansion. That name sounded familiar. It was that million-dollar property in the city's most expensive neighborhood, with golden gates and gardens straight out of a movie. I never imagined anyone from there would order pizza from a simple place like ours. "Of course, ma'am. What would you like?" I asked, grabbing my notepad. The woman ordered 5 large pizzas: margherita, calabresa, portuguesa, chicken with catapiry, and a special vegetarian one. "It's for a small gathering," she explained. The total came to 340 reis. I prepared the pizzas with the utmost care. I knew a delivery to that neighborhood could mean a good tip, and I needed every extra cent. My red Honda CG 160 motorcycle, already a few years old, faithfully accompanied me on all deliveries. I placed the 5 pizza boxes in the thermal bag and set off for Bella Vista Mansion. The ride took about 20 minutes. As I got closer to the address, the houses grew bigger and more luxurious. Imported cars parked in driveways, perfectly manicured gardens, imposing electronic gates. When I finally arrived at Bella Vista Mansion, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The property was even more impressive than I'd imagined. A wrought iron gate with golden details stretched almost 10 meters wide. Through the bars, I could see a circular driveway with a fountain in the center, surrounded by imperial palm trees. The house itself was a 3-story palace, with neoclassical architecture, white columns on the facade, and balconies with ornate balustrades. But what struck me most wasn't the architecture, it was the party going on. Luxury cars were parked all over the entrance: BMWs, Mercedes-Benz, Audis, even a gleaming red Ferrari. Loud music echoed from the property, and I could see elegantly dressed people mingling in the illuminated gardens. I parked my motorcycle outside the gate and approached the intercom. Before I could even press the button, 2 private security guards walked up. One of them, a tall, muscular man in a black suit, looked me up and down with an expression of contempt. "What do you want here?" he asked, sharply. "Good evening, I'm from Pizzeria do Barro. I have a 5 pizza order for delivery," I replied politely, pointing to the thermal bag I was carrying. The second guard, a shorter but equally intimidating man, let out a sarcastic laugh. "Pizza? At a party of this caliber? Must be for the kitchen staff." He spoke into his radio. "Central, we have a pizza delivery guy here. Where should he enter?" While they waited for a response, I could clearly hear the party happening on the other side of the gate. Loud laughter, animated conversations, the clinking of glasses. Through the bars, I saw a group of well-dressed young people approaching the entrance. 3 guys and 2 girls, all appearing to be in their mid-20s to early 30s. The men wore tailored suits, and the women wore designer dresses that probably cost more than 3 months of my salary. "Well, look what we have here," said one of the guys, a tall blonde with a gleaming gold watch. He carried a champagne flute and approached the gate with a mocking smile. "The party's so fancy now, even the food comes by delivery." The others laughed loudly. One of the girls, a brunette with straight hair and flashy jewelry, commented, "Good thing he can't come in. Imagine the smell of fried food at the party." She dramatically covered her nose, making her friends laugh even harder. "Excuse me," I tried to interject politely. "I just need to deliver the pizzas and—" "Pizza?" The blonde guy interrupted me, incredulous. "Did you hear that? Pizza at a $10 million mansion." He turned to his friends. "I bet it's for the waiters. Or maybe the cleaning crew." The second guy, a brunette with a neatly trimmed mustache, joined the conversation.
"Man, just imagine.
We're here drinking 1,000 real bottles of Dom Perignon champagne, and some people are eating 20 real pizza." He shook his head, feigning pity. "That's life, right?" The laughter continued, and I felt my face burn with shame. I looked at my uniform, a simple polo shirt with the pizzeria logo, faded jeans, and worn running shoes. Compared to those people, I really did look out of place. The security guard's radio finally crackled. "Delivery through the back. Service gate," came the curt reply. "Heard that? the tall guard told me, pointing to the right side of the property. Go around the wall to the back. There's a smaller gate there. That's where service providers enter. As I walked back to my motorcycle, I could still hear the comments from the young group. Look at his bike. One of the girls, a redhead in a blue dress, said. My God, that thing must be 15 years old. And his helmet, the blonde guy laughed. Looks like it's been through a war. Guys, stop, the brunette said, feigning compassion. Poor guy. Everyone has their own reality, right? But she laughed herself right after. I started my motorcycle and rode around the property until I found the back gate. It was much simpler than the main entrance, just a plain gray metal gate, unadorned. A house staff member, a middle-aged man in a waiter's uniform, was waiting there for me. Did you bring the pizzas? He asked, without much ceremony. Yes, sir.
5 pizzas, 340 reais total.
He quickly checked the order and handed me the exact amount of money. Thank you. You can go. There was no tip. As I put away the money and prepared to leave, I couldn't help but feel a mix of humiliation and indignation. I had worked honestly for years, woke up every day at 6 in the morning, battled traffic and rain to bring food to people, and yet I was treated as if I were invisible, as if I had no worth. But what those people didn't know, what no one but my accountant and lawyer knew, was that I had a secret. A secret that would completely change their perception of who I really was. 3 years ago, my father had passed away, leaving me a small inheritance, a simple little house in the countryside and some savings. I could have used that money to immediately improve my life, but I decided to invest. I started by buying shares in tech companies, studying the financial market in my spare time. Then, I invested in cryptocurrencies when they were still cheap. I also bought some land in areas I believed would appreciate. During those 3 years, I kept my job at the pizzeria. It was my passion. I enjoyed the human connection, the simplicity of the routine. But behind the scenes, my investments grew extraordinarily. The stocks appreciated by 500%. Cryptocurrencies soared by over 1,000%. The land I bought became prime areas of the city. Last month, my accountant gave me the news that changed my life. I had enough assets to buy any property I wanted. And it was exactly then that I learned Bella Vista Mansion was for sale. The former owner, a bankrupt businessman, urgently needed to sell the property. I made an all-cash offer of 9.5 million reais, $500,000 below the asking price. It was accepted immediately. The documents were signed on Monday of that very week. I was, officially, the new owner of Bella Vista Mansion. But I decided not to tell anyone yet. I wanted to make a special surprise at the inauguration party the former owner had already organized to say goodbye to the house. He didn't know who the buyer was. All negotiations were done through my lawyer, maintaining absolute secrecy about my identity. The party was scheduled for that Friday, exactly the night I received the pizza order. What the old owner didn't know was that he was hosting a party in a house that no longer belonged to him. And what the guests didn't know was that the simple pizza delivery guy they had humiliated just minutes before was, in fact, the new owner of the mansion. I left through the back as instructed, but instead of leaving, I parked my motorcycle a few blocks from the mansion. I called my lawyer, Dr. Roberto Silva, who was waiting for my call. Dr. Roberto, it's Carlos. It's time. Perfect, Carlos. I'm nearby with all the documentation. Are you sure you want to do this way? Absolutely sure. They need to learn a lesson about judging people by appearances. 20 minutes later, Dr. Roberto arrived in his black Mercedes-Benz. He was a distinguished 60-year-old man, with perfectly combed gray hair, wearing an impeccable Italian suit. He carried a leather briefcase with all the documents proving my ownership of the mansion. Carlos, are you sure about this? He asked, handing me a copy of the deeds. It could create a very awkward situation. Doctor, I've been doing deliveries for 4 years. Every day I meet people who treat me as if I'm invisible. Today was the last straw. They need to understand that a person's worth isn't in the clothes they wear or the car they drive. We walked back to the mansion together. This time, we headed for the main entrance. The same group of young people was still there, now with more people. The party had grown, and I could see at least 50 guests mingling in the gardens. Dr. Roberto approached the gate and called one of the security guards. "Good evening. I'm Dr. Roberto Silva, the lawyer responsible for the sale of this property. I urgently need to speak with Mr. Marcelo Andrade," he said, referring to the former owner. The guard, visibly changing his demeanor upon seeing the well-dressed lawyer and the luxury car, quickly radioed. "Dr. Roberto Silva is here, wants to speak with Mr. Marcelo." Within minutes, Marcelo Andrade appeared. He was a 50-year-old man, dark hair with some gray streaks, wearing an immaculate tuxedo. He greeted Dr. Roberto with a smile but seemed confused. "Dr. Roberto, what a surprise to see you here. Has there been a problem with the documentation?" "No problem at all, Mr. Marcelo. In fact, I've come to bring a surprise. The new owner has decided to introduce himself personally tonight." Marcelo's eyes lit up. "How wonderful! I'm finally going to meet the person who bought my house. Where is he?" Dr. Roberto looked at me and signaled. I approached the gate, still wearing my delivery uniform. Marcelo looked at me confused, clearly not understanding why I was there. "Mr. Marcelo Andrade," Dr. Roberto said solemnly, "I have the pleasure of introducing Mr. Carlos Eduardo Santos, the new owner of Bella Vista Mansion." The silence that followed was deafening. Marcelo looked at me, then at Dr. Roberto, then at me again, as if trying to process the information. The security guards who had mistreated me minutes earlier turned pale. "Excuse me, doctor, but isn't he the pizza delivery guy who was here a little while ago?" Marcelo asked, clearly confused. "Yes, I am," I replied calmly. "I've worked at Pizzeria do Barro for 4 years. But I'm also an entrepreneur and an investor. I bought your house last Monday for 9.5 million reais, paid in cash." Dr. Roberto opened his briefcase and showed the documents. "Here are the deeds registered at the notary, proof of payment, and all legal documentation. Mr. Carlos is, officially, the owner of this property since Monday." Marcelo took the documents with trembling hands and examined them carefully. After a few minutes, he looked up, utterly shocked. "My God! It's true. Carlos, I didn't know. Please, forgive me for the improper reception." The tall security guard who had been rude to me nervously approached. "Mr. Carlos, I didn't know who you were. Please accept my apologies." "Don't worry," I replied calmly. "You just did what you thought you should do based on what you saw. That's exactly what I want to talk about." Marcelo, still visibly shaken by the revelation, invited me in. "Carlos, please come in. This is your house now. And what an incredible coincidence that you were the pizza delivery guy." We walked together through the main entrance. The same young people who had mocked me minutes earlier were still there, but now chatting animatedly, oblivious to what was happening. As we approached, the blond guy recognized me. "Hey, isn't that the pizza delivery guy?" he said, laughing. "Did he come back for a tip?" Marcelo stepped forward before I could answer. "Everyone, I'd like to introduce you to the new owner of this mansion, Mr. Carlos Eduardo Santos." The silence was immediate and absolute. Champagne flutes froze in mid-air, conversation ceased, and all eyes turned to me. The blond guy turned so pale I thought he might faint. This is a joke, right?" stammered the brunette in the black dress. Dr. Roberto, ever formal, stepped forward. "It's no joke at all. Mr. Carlos acquired this property last Monday. I have all the documentation here, if anyone wants to verify." The redhead in the blue dress covered her face with her hands. "Oh my God, what have we done?" "You did exactly what most people would do," I replied serenely. "You judged by appearances. It's natural, it's human, but it's also wrong." Marcelo clapped his hands to get the attention of all the guests. "Friends, can I have your attention for a moment?" Gradually, the music faded, and about 70 people gathered in the main garden. Marcelo climbed onto the small staircase of the central fountain so everyone could see him. "Friends, as you know, this is my farewell party for this wonderful house. And I said that tonight you would meet the new owner." He paused dramatically. "Well, the time has come. I'd like to introduce Mr. Carlos Eduardo Santos, who bought this property and is, from now on, the new owner of Bella Vista Mansion." He called me to stand beside him. I felt all eyes on me, my pizza uniform brutally contrasting with the elegance of the party. Murmurs began to rise from the crowd. "Thank you, Marcelo," I began, my voice echoing through the silent garden. "It's true, I bought this house. But first and foremost, I want to tell you a story." I took a deep breath and continued. "My name is Carlos Eduardo, I'm 32 years old, and I've been working as a pizza delivery driver for 4 years. I wake up every day at 6 in the morning, get on my motorcycle, and go to work. I face rain, scorching sun, traffic, rude customers. I earn about 2,000 reais a month." I could see the confused expressions on people's faces. What was I getting at? But in the last 3 years, I also became an investor. I studied the financial market, invested in stocks, cryptocurrencies, real estate. I was lucky, I worked hard, and my investments multiplied extraordinarily. The expressions began to change. Curiosity replacing confusion. "Last Monday, I bought this mansion for 9.5 million reais, all cash. I am, officially, the new owner. But I decided not to tell anyone until today, because I wanted to do a social experiment." The garden was completely silent now. Even the waiters had stopped moving. An hour ago, I received a pizza order for delivery here. When I arrived, wearing my work uniform, riding my simple motorcycle, I was treated exactly as you would expect a delivery person to be treated. Some of you laughed at my appearance. Others made comments about my motorcycle. Others suggested I shouldn't even pass through the main entrance. I could see several people lowering their gaze, visibly embarrassed. And you know what? You didn't do anything extraordinarily wrong. You did what society teaches us to do. Judge people by appearance, by social status, by profession. It's an automatic reflex we all have. I paused, looking at the faces in front of me. But I want to use this situation to teach something important. A person's worth is not in the car they drive, the clothes they wear, or the profession they have. It's in their character, their honesty, their effort. The blonde guy who had mocked me approached the staircase. "Mr. Carlos, I want to apologize. What I did was unacceptable. I have no excuse." "I accept your apology," I replied, stepping down from the staircase to stand at his level. "But you don't need to be ashamed. Use this as a learning experience. Next time you meet someone who appears to have less money or status than you, remember tonight." The brunette also approached, tears in her eyes. "Mr. Carlos, I feel terrible. The things I said. You said what you thought at the time. Now you have the opportunity to think differently." Marcelo took the floor again. "Friends, I think we all learned something important today. Carlos, thank you for this lesson. And congratulations on your new home." The applause started timidly but soon spread throughout the garden. It wasn't just polite applause. I could feel it was genuine, filled with respect and admiration. Dr. Roberto approached me.
Carlos, you got what you wanted. Do you want me to prepare the documents for the official transfer of keys?
"Of course, doctor. But first..." I looked at Marcelo. "If you don't mind, I'd like to say a few more words." I went up the staircase again. The crowd watched me intently, now with a completely different expression than when I had arrived. "Everyone, I want to make one thing clear. I didn't do this to humiliate anyone or to get revenge. I did it because I believe we all deserve a second chance to see the world differently." I pointed to my motorcycle parked at the entrance. "I'm going to continue working as a delivery driver, because I love what I do. I like the human connection, the simplicity, the feeling of bringing joy to people through food. Money hasn't changed who I am inside." An elegant lady, about 60 years old, raised her hand. "Mr. Carlos, may I ask a question?" "Of course, ma'am. Why did you decide to buy this house specifically? Was there any special reason?" I smiled. "Actually, I used to pass by here every day on my way to work. I always admired this mansion, dreamed of seeing inside it. When I found out it was for sale, I couldn't resist." "And your plans for the property?" a middle-aged man asked. "I'll live here, of course. But I also want to turn part of the house into a training center for delivery drivers and small entrepreneurs. To teach about investments, financial education, how to turn small businesses into big successes." The applause resumed, even more enthusiastic this time. The blonde guy approached again. "Mr. Carlos, I work in the financial market. If you'd like, I'd love to help with this project. For free." "I accept," I replied, extending my hand to him. "But first, what's your name?" "Gabriel. Gabriel Mendez. And it's a true pleasure to meet you." The brunette also approached. "I'm an advertising executive. I can help with promoting the project." "Mariana," she introduced herself. "And I want to apologize again." One by one, several people began to introduce themselves and offer help. The lawyer who wanted to help with legal matters. The architect who could redesign the spaces. The journalist who wanted to tell the story to inspire others. Marcelo approached me with the house keys. "Carlos, officially, this house is yours. But more than that, you achieved something I never could in all the years I lived here." "What was that?" "You brought people together. You turned a superficial party into something meaningful." Dr. Roberto completed the transfer of documents right there, using the garden table as a makeshift office. Within minutes, I held all the papers confirming me as the legal owner of Bella Vista Mansion. "Everyone," I announced, "since this is now my house, and you are my first official guests, how about we continue the party? But this time with pizza." Laughter echoed through the garden. The same group that had scoffed at pizza an hour earlier now applauded the idea. I took out my phone and called the pizzeria. "Hey, Mr. Joao. It's Carlos. I'll need 20 more large pizzas, assorted flavors. It's for Bella Vista Mansion." "Yes, the same address as before. But this time, the delivery is at the main door." When I hung up, everyone was laughing. Gabriel approached. "Mr. Carlos, may I ask a personal question?" "Of course. How did you manage to stay so grounded with so much money?" I thought for a moment before answering. "Gabriel, money is a tool, not a destination. It can amplify who you are, but it cannot change your essence. If you are a good person before you have money, you remain so afterward. If you are arrogant before, you get worse afterward." "And what's your advice for someone who wants to follow the same path?" "First, never stop learning. Second, never stop working honestly. Third, never lose humility. And fourth, always remember that true wealth lies in human relationships, not in the bank." The pizzas arrived 40 minutes later, brought by my colleague Roberto from the pizzeria. When he saw me in the middle of the elegant party, still in uniform, he was completely confused. "Carlos, what's going on here?" "Roberto, I'd like to introduce you to the guests at my housewarming party."
Your party.
"Carlos, are you okay?" Dr. Roberto approached with the documents. "Mr. Roberto, your colleague Carlos is the owner of this mansion. He bought it this week." Roberto looked at the papers, looked at me, looked at the mansion, and sat down in a chair, clearly in shock. "Carlos, how?" "It's a long story, Roberto. I'll tell you later. For now, let's hand out these pizzas." The scene that followed was surreal. Business people in suits and ties, socialites in designer dresses, all sitting in the garden of a $10 million mansion, eating pizza and chatting animatedly with two delivery drivers in uniform.
Gabriele approached Roberto.
"Your colleague is an extraordinary man. Did you know about his success as an investor?" "What investor?" Roberto asked, still confused. "Carlos has worked with me for 4 years. He delivers pizza." "He delivers pizza and he's a multimillionaire," Mariana explained. "He bought this mansion cash." Roberto looked at me with an expression that mixed disbelief and pride. "Carlos, is that true?" "It's true, Roberto. And do you know what my first investment was?"
No idea.
"Shares in the company that makes our thermal bags. I knew the delivery business was only going to grow." Everyone laughed, and Roberto finally began to understand the situation. As the night progressed, the party took a completely different turn than planned. Instead of superficial conversations about cars and travel, people talked about dreams, projects, how to help each other. The guy who had mocked my motorcycle now asked if I could teach him about investments. The girl who had complained about the smell of fried food now wanted to know how to start a small business. Around midnight, as the party was winding down, Marcelo approached me. "Carlos, can I ask you a question?" "Of course." "Did you plan all this? The pizza delivery, the dramatic reveal." I smiled. "Actually, Marcelo, when I got the pizza order, I didn't even know it was for my own house. It was an incredible coincidence. But when I arrived here and saw how I was treated, I decided it was the perfect opportunity to do something meaningful." "You turned my farewell party into your housewarming party. And it was brilliant." "It was honest," I corrected.
The best lessons come from honesty.
When all the guests finally left, I was alone in my new house for the first time. I walked through the gardens, entered the luxurious rooms, climbed the marble staircase. All of it was mine. But you know what made me happiest? It wasn't the size of the house or its value. It was remembering the faces of the people when they understood the lesson. It was seeing Gabriel and Mariana sincerely apologizing. It was witnessing Roberto discovering that his coworker had achieved an impossible dream. At the end of the night, I sat on the main balcony and called my mother, who lives in the countryside. "Mom, I did it. I bought my dream house." "That's great, son. It must be a lovely little house." "Actually, Mom, it's a mansion." I told her the whole story. When I finished, she was silent for a long moment. "Carlos, I'm proud of you. Not because of the money or the house. I'm proud because you continued to be who you always were." "Thanks, Mom. I'll pick you up tomorrow so you can see the house." Understand.